Welcome to Club Level Sports. Today we're going to talk about Will Levis and why he shouldn't get drafted as high as people are talking about. They're talking about him getting drafted in the first round, and quite frankly, we disagree with it. We think it would be a mistake for most teams to draft him on the possibility of what he could be instead of what he has done. So Will Levis received a draft grade of 65 out of 100. Now, that's not a very good draft grade. It just isn't. It's not the worst draft grade of all the quarterbacks coming out. It's not, but it's not a good one. Right now in the top 10, it's averaging around a 74. So if you're above a 74, it indicates that you're on the right path. If you're below that, it indicates that you need to fix some things. So just because he received a 65 out of 100 does not mean that he's not going to be good. I know some people will be like, you're just going to say he sucks? No, he can do good in the NFL. He can, but he's got to fix some things. And we're going to go over those things that he needs to fix. Well, first and foremost, he was not going to get the starting job at Penn State from what we could see. Okay, what it sounds like is that he left Penn State because he needed some playing time and he wanted playing time and he wasn't getting it. Well, at Penn State, it is much tougher to start at Penn State than it is at Kentucky. I know some SEC fans will disagree with that, but that's just the truth of the matter. Look at recruiting. Look at the players they send to the league. Penn State dominates Kentucky in those categories by far. Okay, so they're not close programs. Kentucky and Penn State are not close programs, so don't get that confused. So then he goes to Kentucky, and his first year starting there, you saw in 2021, 2,800 yards. He had 24 TDs with 13 interceptions. Not too bad, right? Not the worst ever. You really thought he was going to do better this last year, and a lot of people talked about how his offensive line wasn't good, his offensive coordinator, they didn't really help him out, and there is some truth to that. There's no question. But there's also truth to the fact that you just have a bad TD to interception ratio, and his consistency is the biggest problem. 2,400 yards this year, 19 TDs, 10 interceptions. Okay, not good. There is not one bit of evidence that you can look at and you can tell me that he's consistent. Not one. I know that some people, compare him to great quarterbacks. I don't see it. I don't know where they're getting it. And, part of this channel here is just no hype. We don't care about hype. We don't care what the combine said in certain categories. We just don't care. We care what the film says. We care about a lot of other things rather than just how far you can throw a deep ball. Jamarcus Russell threw a great deep ball. There's no question. But he wasn't a great quarterback. And I'm not saying Will Levis will be Jamarcus Russell. I'm just saying you got to be careful of riding the hype train. Let's first jump into the QB comparison. Right now we have Carson Wentz. I know there's a lot of names being said out there on how good he can be, and he's like this guy or that guy. And there's a lot of hype going on right now. And this is the time for hype. This is the time for people to try and get views based upon them saying that this is going to be the next great so-and-so and all this stuff. And to us, it doesn't make sense. I mean, explain to us really how he is as good as some of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. He's just not there. Okay, so Carson Wentz is what we have because he could play to that level. He could play better. He could play worse. So when should Will Levis get drafted? We have him in the third round or possibly even later. All right, first round, we don't have that. First round to us is the guy should make an immediate impact as a first rounder. All right, that's what he should do. He should make an immediate impact. You can go through and see so many first rounders that have made immediate impacts because they're good. It's your first overall pick. You're not typically going to go for a project player to such a great margin. You're not going to do that. So we have him around the first or the third round, possibly even later. But he's probably going to go in the first round. That's more than likely going to be what they're going to do. Someone's going to say, hey, you got to get him in the first round. You got to get him in the first round. We'll take a chance on him. And that's fine. It could pan out for you. But you also could waste a draft pick that you later on look back and say, why did we do that? We should have drafted what we believed in instead of what we, the magic experience of what could be. And that's why you also got to be careful of letting fans draft for you, because too many fans get on the hype train too quick and they're like, draft him. I saw his highlights. His highlights look great. And that's a problem. That's why you don't let fans lead a billion-dollar franchise. You got to be careful. Don't think like a fan, think like a business. Will Levis's leadership and confidence grade got an 8 out of 12. The leadership ranking grades players on how much they led their team during a game, how much they can put a team on their back, how much they can make players play better around them, and how much they can lead in an NFL locker room, which is very important. Does the quarterback get rattled? You need to be able to put a team on your back like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, many other guys, that they can get guys signed to great deals that normally wouldn't get those deals because they played with them. They need to bring more out of their team. And that is one thing that we just don't see with Will Levis right away. Obviously, the play calling was suspect, and the wide receivers, offensive line, there was areas of improvement that needed to be done and that weren't done, obviously. However, he just did not put the team on his back. He just did not lead in those areas that we thought he should have led to really be the quarterback that's going to get selected in the top 5. A top 5 pick, or even the first round entirely, are quarterbacks that really show the ability to at least lead a team. And we just didn't see that with Levis. We didn't see it with him. And I know we haven't talked to his teammates. We didn't talk to him, but we didn't need to. We saw what we saw. We could see how he was leading on the field, and it just wasn't there. It wasn't enough for us to give him a higher grade. This is another area that hurt Will Levis, which is his decision-making. He had a 7 out of 12, and it honestly could have been lower. The decision-making grade ranks a player on how well they can read a defense, the decision a player makes on a busted play. Does the quarterback throw the ball away? Scrambles for a first, or scrambles to buy time for a wide receiver to get open, or a receiver in general. It also grades what decision the player makes on a certain down. Will Levis just did not have enough. He just didn't. It took a long time for him to go through his progressions. He stared down receivers. He would throw the ball late. His timing was off. He just lacked decision-making. You know, he was not going through his progressions fast enough to find guys to say, hey, I'm going to throw to this guy and he's going to be open. And I trust that. He turned the ball over, and a huge part of that was his decision-making. Big game performance. He gets an 8 out of 12. I don't think I need to explain big game performance to you guys. We'll go over some of the stats here of his big game performance. It's not like he played a lot of big games, but even in the big games that he played, I mean, he struggled. And I was hoping to at least see that and say, all right, well, hey, he played big in big games, right? No. He didn't. All right, let's actually talk about the big game performance. There's only 2 teams that is true big game performance here, and that's Georgia and that's Tennessee. That's it. Ole Miss got beat by Texas Tech, and they got the hats knocked off of them by Texas Tech in a bowl game, 42-25. Ole Miss is not a serious team. Mississippi State, not a serious team. Florida's too inconsistent to be a serious team. YSU, I don't even really know who this is. What is this, Youngstown State University? This is someone that they just scheduled for a gimme game. He still threw 2 interceptions with 2 TDs. Not great. I mean, abysmal. Miami of Ohio, he threw 1 interception. You shouldn't be throwing interceptions on Miami of Ohio, Youngstown State. It's just not good. Yeah, NIU, you did good. But still, NIU is not a serious team. So, the teams that he did do that were serious teams, Tennessee, you threw 3 interceptions. 1 wasn't his fault, I will say that. However, a defender dropped a wide open pass as well. That would have been another interception. So even if that one didn't count, it still would have been 3 if he just caught the easiest ball ever. Will Levis threw it right to the guy. Right to him. I mean, it was perfect pass if it was his actual receiver instead of the defender, but it wasn't. Okay, so Tennessee just smacked him around. And it was not good for him against Tennessee. Even Georgia. Okay, Georgia, he threw one TD, 1 interception. Not great. Even on some of the plays that were big plays for him, it was lucky plays. His timing was off. He threw the ball up, and he just kind of chucked it up way late. The wide receiver had to come back for the ball. He didn't even get to show off his arm strength that he has in abundance. So his big game performance was terrible. It was. And obviously the entire team, it was not good. But for Will Levis in particular, his big game performance was just not good. Will Levis's longevity rating got a 7 out of 11. It's not good. The thing about him is he takes very dumb hits. I understand he played injured. People talk about it like it's a good thing, and that is a good thing when you talk about his toughness, okay? No question about it. His toughness is there. He is a tough dude. He's a big dude, 6'3", 229. He's not a small guy by any means, so having that toughness is great. However, the hits that he took were stupid. They were dumb hits. Okay, very dumb hits. And if you're going to take those hits in college and get beat up, it's not going to turn around and become better in the NFL. You're not going to be able to muscle your way and lower your shoulder against a 260-pound man and think that you're going to last the sands of time. Okay, Andrew Luck is bigger than Will Levis and still couldn't do that. And Andrew Luck was a monster. Okay, so his longevity rating is a concern. He's got a 7 out of 11. He is not going to last long if he continues taking the hits that he took in college. It's just not going to work out for him. So that is something that he's going to need to change. And you guys can obviously read our entire article on his scouting report, but he needs to change that because his hits were incredibly dumb. And I get he's a competitor and all that, and that's great, but you're going to be a competitor from the sidelines if you think you're going to be able to make those hits on the guys in the NFL. Let's talk about total arm value now. Total arm value, 8 out of 11. Not great because everyone talks about his arm strength. Arm strength, arm strength, arm strength, arm strength, more arm strength. Everyone says it. Arm strength is great, but we don't grade off of arm strength because it doesn't make sense. We grade off of total arm value that grades the quarterback's arm strength, accuracy, and throwing mechanics. We combine it all because you need to be able to have the arm power to throw it downfield, but you need to have the finesse and the accuracy to be able to drop it in the bucket. If your wide receivers have to stop a lot of the times and come back to the ball because you threw it late or because you didn't have the accuracy, then that's a problem. There are plenty of quarterbacks out that have come into the league like Jamarcus Russell, and we're not comparing him to Jamarcus Russell, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that have had great arm power and yet didn't make it. They didn't have the accuracy. The NFL, and I hate to break this to a lot of people, but the NFL is not a throwing the ball deep competition. It's just not. Okay, there is a lot of strategic and very accurate throws that you need to make, and you need to do it with some zip. And that's the problem that you see with Will Levis, is he believed that his arm power could save him from lack of decision-making or his lack of reaction time. And that was a problem. He'd wait for a guy and he'd be like, okay, now he's open. And then he would throw it with that cannon and it would still get there slightly late because he would depend on that throw power too much and you'd see the ball get turned over. That's a problem that I see. And I see too many guys out there and too many people talk about his arm strength. I am so sick and tired of talking about arm strength as if the arm strength is the second coming of football Jesus. It's not. You need to have touch. You need to have that touch, or else it doesn't matter how far you can throw the ball. Levis, you got to work on that accuracy, bud. You got to work on putting it in the bucket, and you got to work on your timing, or else that arm power, it's great for barbecues, and it's great to show it off on how far you can throw, but it's bad when it comes to the NFL when you got guys like, really good cornerbacks and really good safeties who can close quickly and make you pay for that arm power and lack of accuracy. Let's talk about pocket control. Pocket control grades pocket awareness, stepping up in the pocket, avoiding sacks, and moving around the pocket to avoid defenders. Big Ben, for example, was a monster. Some of you guys might be too young to know what Big Ben was really like, but Big Ben, man, the dude just had pocket manipulation. That guy manipulated the pocket, and his control was absurd on how he would step up in the pocket. The Steelers didn't even really have that great of an offensive line for a pretty long time, but he just kept plays alive for so long because of his pocket control. That's one thing that I loved about Big Ben, was just how he controlled the pocket. Simple as that. Levis was sacked a total of 37 times, 5 against Miami of Ohio. Yes, his offensive line was not great, but it doesn't help when your pocket control is not where it needs to be either. That's just going to make the sacks even more. That's going to make the punishment on the quarterback even more. So he has a hard time picking up on blitzing defenders, and he's taken some massive hits because of it. So that's the one thing I worry about with him, is if I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm looking at it, I'm going to blitz Will Levis, knowing how he is not accurate, knowing his consistency. with knowing how he doesn't have pocket control, the NFL is probably going to blitz him a lot. And you're going to hear the same story again. If he gets sacked a lot, fans of his will say it's offensive line. Other people are going to say, well, the defense is just going to keep blitzing him until he figures it out, because he will just, his pocket awareness is just not good. He'll know a guy's breaking through the line, start to step to his left, and he just keeps waiting instead of either taking off or realizing that the pocket collapsed or anything like that. He doesn't have enough of it that he needs to have going into the NFL. And that's what we worry about. And he got a 7 out of 11 because of it. And honestly, it could have been even lower. Let's talk consistency. Consistency, he just didn't have it. He wasn't consistent in any which way. He just wasn't there. He had no consistency. It's something that he needs to do better on, no doubt about it. It is one of his biggest areas of concern. Now, reaction time. Reaction time is different than decision-making. Decision-making is you at least made the right decision, but maybe you lacked the reaction time to get it there when you needed to get it there, when it was open. Okay, reaction time grades a player on how fast a player reacts to what the defense is giving them, how fast they can process defensive pressures, and how fast they can react to any given play. And he struggled with that. That is something he struggled with and why he got interceptions. There were times he had good decisions, just bad reaction time. And so that is something that kind of hurt him. Now let's talk about the scrambling ability. Scrambling ability grades a quarterback's ability to extend the play with 2 desired outcomes: buying time to find a receiver who has broken open, or running for positive yardage. Now, he can run for positive yardage. The area that I worry about the most is him buying time to find a receiver who has broken open. You need to have a combination of this to be good in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is not always just trying to run for a first down. That dude scares the hell out of you when he gets out of the pocket because you really don't know what he's going to do. And wide receivers are scrambling too, and so are defenders, because they're trying to get open because they know he's going to throw the ball deep if they're open. All right? That is not Will Levis. Will Levis does not have that ability yet. He could, kind of get more of that going, but the problem is there's a lot of that that's instinctual. And he just doesn't have a lot of that right at this moment in time. So I worry about that. Now, where he can improve. Now, he needs to improve on his accuracy, decision-making, his ability to control the pocket. He needs to take smarter hits. There are things that he needs to improve on if he wants to be a good quarterback. Not even a great quarterback, just a good quarterback in the NFL. Projected start time, we have him in a 3-year plan. And that's if they actually work on those things that he needs to have improved. If not, they're going to put him in. He's not going to do that good, and the franchise is going to look dumb. They're going to look dumb. And so you're going to need to solve these issues. We think it could take up to 3 years. It could be sooner. That's just the projection. We hope that it's sooner. We hope he figures these things out because he could be a good quarterback. Will Levis, he could be a good quarterback. You just need to solve a few things first. And when I mean a few things, I mean a little bit more than a few things. But, you have the ability. He does. He has the ability. So we'll see what he does with it. We'll see what a team does with him and how it pans out. Hopefully his draft grade will translate when he gets his NFL grade, when we grade him in the NFL, and it increases much higher than it is now.